Wowza, that didn't disappoint, did it? So let's start with the game number one. Leeds Rhino versus Celtic Dragons. So Dan Ryan went on screen first and said that actually this isn't about results this season, it's about progress, it's about performance, it's about going out there and having fun, and starting to build and building and building and building as they go through the season. So you kind of think, what are they going to start with? But his main theory being, the more they build, the better they get, the more results they'll see anyway. Tanya Hoffman said, new squad, 7 in, 7 out. And, a lot of them being Welsh, and they're looking at helping to build through the pathway. But they were looking for good performances. What did we see? So what you saw was from Rhinos, which was kind of unexpected, but not unexpected at the same point in time, was a real strong structure. So considering these players are brand new to this franchise, they haven't been together very long, we got some fantastic play together. I mean, their defensive structure, they had it very often especially in their defensive third, like a diamond structure, they were pushing players out to one side, or they were pushing them all to one side. They kind of pick players up as well as marking their own. So they'd be man on man, but they'd be aware of someone else, and they'd step up and buffer them off. And what that really did was slow down that Dragon's attack. It stopped them from being able to penetrate through. It made them play quite wide at times, all on top of each other, and that made it really static. They kept having to go back to that line, and they just couldn't get that ball in. It was just smothered. You saw every now and then some really strong drives from the Celtic Dragons to circle edge, but not enough. They just couldn't get through that defensive structure. So, in fairness, the Celtic Dragons' timing was off on their attack. So what you would see, what you did see, is a lot of everybody moving at the same time. So everybody being doing their pre-moves, and then everybody would be making a move. So it was either one offer or no one was free, and that's a real big problem. They weren't necessarily playing off each other. You didn't see that unit work. You saw individuals doing really hard work and individual jobs, but it didn't link together, and so this caused them a real problem. Because if you've only got one option and that's shut down, where else do you go? If everyone's moving at the same time and you don't give that first second ball, then there's nothing else on coming through in the third second. Everyone then becomes static. And what you had at the back with Keenan and Asola was just amazing. I mean, considering, again, Keenan's been brought in quite late, so they've not had much time to work. Sorry, I'm so excited. They've not had much time to work together. But you saw Keenan in this job in the middle, feet off. She's constantly moving. I mean, we've seen before that she's a great player. And Asola is well aware of where the goal attack is, but she's also looking for those circle edge balls. So the amount of balls she took just by driving out on those circle edges was unbelievable. And the only reason she could do that was because of the structure out in front. So she didn't always have to be man on man, because everybody is also being aware of the other players around them. So it put masses of pressure on. Let's talk about Wellham. I spoke about Wellham in my thing before when I talked about what we were going to see. Oh my goodness, she didn't disappoint, did she? It was going to be that competition between her and Annika. And there wasn't a competition at all. The problem is Dragons went for that man-on-man defence with her and a body-on-body, and she's so good at screening her space. She's an ex-basketball player. We know that they're good with their bodies, and she held that space, and when she held back space, it was going in all day, and it took them forever to change. Eventually, they started to try and shut down that backspace, but then she just played the front and then opened up again. She was going off in one direction, then the feed would come in from Rhea Dixon, and it would flip her out the other way, and she'd still get the ball. And Rhea Dixon did a lot of work around the circle edge as well, of playing herself in. If they doubled back on her, it was no problem, because she'd just give and go and play herself in. And we've seen that Rhea Dixon can shoot. Not only can she shoot, she shot over the towering defence and just put it up. It's always a nice high shot from her, and it's sinking. So quarter one, for instance, Dragons only scored 6 goals, but their shooting percentages were at 66% as well. So not only were they struggling to get the ball in, from all that under pressure, they were struggling to shoot it as well. What else have I written? So I've also written about the fact that for Dragons, sometimes they were in the pocket too soon. You can't sit there with the Asola at the back. She was just coming out on them. So we saw quarter scores for Rhinos. They scored 14, then they scored 15, then they scored 19 goals in the third quarter. That's 12 minutes and they scored 19 goals, and then 17 goals in the fourth quarter. To Dragons 6 and then 6 and then 11, so better second quarter, then down to 6 again in the third, and then back up to 12 in the fourth. So it's varied. I mean, in the third quarter we lost Jones. She came off Players mixed around. I'm not necessarily saying that individual players for player were wrong choices, but the point was is Jones had just started to go on those runs. She'd started to hunt ball, maybe thread a seed of doubt in the second quarter, but then she came off for the third quarter. So you kind of lost that again. Admittedly, sometimes she'd go on something and then she wouldn't get it and she'd have overcommitted and her players could do like give and goes. But actually, they needed to put some pressure on. In defence, for their whole through-court defence for Dragons, they weren't working together. It was really individual. It was man on man, running, and they just didn't have the connection. So when I spoke in my vlog before about the fact that teams that win will win together as a unit, you don't need 7 superstars on the court. You need 7 players that are a team that play together, and that's just what they were missing, and it's what Rhinos bought. And you had Jade Clark as well in the middle, and she just led that team so well. It was so calm, so composed. The space they had, you had from them those one-offers, then the other one coming through, then the other one coming through. You had the width, you had the depth. It was just so much more clinical. And then obviously the roundup of that was Jade Clark obviously got player of the match. I know obviously, not obviously, there were lots of good players out on the court. Rhinos managed to field all of their players, all of their youngsters. And what Dan said was that, you know what, he wanted them to go out and play and enjoy it and have a smile on their face, and that's what they did. But they all had a role in that game. Everybody that was on that court had a role for Rhinos, and they did that role, and that's what made it work. And I'm not sure that the Dragons players quite knew what their role was. And Tanya obviously came on and said, look, they played badly, they didn't start well, and that they're going to go back and look at processes. And fair play to her, great reflection, because that's exactly what they need to do, is go back and look at processes and look at actually what are they doing as a team, what is their game plan, what is their structure. There were glimpses of really good structure, don't get me wrong, like backline defence. You could see in times they were trying to push them high up court, but then that was always released by a runner. So they just need to be a bit careful. And then sometimes when they were really struggling, everybody would pile down into that end, and so it was just really busy. So they just really need to go back, revisit a bit of structure, and look at how they're going to improve that. They're moving on to Bath tomorrow. It's going to be a really tough game for them, I think. And I think they're really going to struggle. But hopefully what they'll be able to do now is they'll be able to go and reflect. Maybe playing against Bath, it'll be a bit less pressure for them, because Bath are tipped to be one of the top 2 by most people. A lot of people have tipped them to win. So maybe they're going now with a, you know, this is what it is game, and it'll give them the confidence to try a few more things out, because that's going to be key for them, is a bit of confidence, because after coming off that performance, they're probably going to need to pick themselves up. And Rhinos are going to go out, and it's going to be exciting, isn't it? Monday we're going to see them against Mavs, and you know what? Before today, I would have said I would have backed Mavs. Now I just don't know. I couldn't call it yet. We'll see. We'll see what the next games are like tomorrow, and yeah, we'll see what happens from there. But fantastic first game, exciting to see. All credit to Dan Ryan and Rhinos. They bought it, they played it, and they earned that win. They weren't gifted it, they earned it. They did a really good job. Hopefully, like I say, Dragons have quality players on their side. I hope that they go away, pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and come back with a really good game plan for tomorrow, which I have no doubts that they're capable of. Fantastic. Have a good evening, everyone.